On the 11th night of my rotation, something stood in the lamp room beside my lens. It had a lens for an eye, and it was watching the rotation copy itself. My name is in the Lightkeeper's Form 75 for Pemaquid Point Light, Bristol, Maine, autumn 1882. A Sahel Calder, principal keeper, 3-month rotation. My wife had gone home to Damariscotta on the 1st of October. My assistant was a young man out of Bath who never arrived, on account of a nor'easter that took the schooner he was meant to come on as far as Monhegan and no farther. I was 51 or 52. My birthday is in November, and I have never been entirely sure on which side of it the 11th falls. I had been a keeper for 19 years, 2 stations before this one, and I had worn through 3 pairs of brass-spouted oil cans. That is the kind of thing a man notes when he has stopped noting the kind of thing the service tells him to. The tower at Pemaquid is 38 feet of whitewashed stone on a granite ledge the sea has been riding on since before the Pilgrims. The lamp inside is a 4th-order Fresnel French-cut kerosene wick. It turns at 2.5 revolutions to the minute on a hand-wound clockwork drive. And if you forget to wind the weights every 3 hours and 40 minutes, the whole thing slows, and the flash spreads, and somewhere out in Muscongas Bay, a man at a tiller knows the keeper has fallen asleep. I had not let the weights down, not in 19 years. 1.5 gallons of kerosene a night. More in November when the lamp burns 16 hours. A chamois cloth for the lens polish, wick trimmer scissors, a pair of brass-bound binoculars that had belonged to a keeper at Burnt Island and were given to me by his widow because she said she could not stand the look of them on her mantle. The Form 75 is not a place for what I am telling you. It is a place for weather, vessel-sighted, oil-consumed, fog hours. It does not have a column for the night the lens looked back. The 11th of November, 1882 was a Saturday. The fog began at 4 in the afternoon. It came up off the bay in the slow, considering way Muscongas fog comes. Not a wall, more like a man walking around a room deciding where to sit. By 5, it had taken the bell buoy off the south ledge. I lit the lamp at 4:50 and rang the fog bell at 5:20, and from then on I rang it every 30 seconds by the pocket watch laid open on the bell deck rail. You think a hand-pull bell is a small thing. It is not. 1 pull is 14 pounds of cast iron lifted 3 feet on a hemp rope, and you do it every half minute for as long as the fog lasts. My right shoulder by midnight was a kind of stone. At 9, I made my first round. Lamp room weights wick. The flame was even. The lens rotating at 2.5. I noted it in the Form 75. Lamp lit 4:50 p.m. Fog signal in operation from 5:20 p.m. Wind, EN, rising. Sea, heavy. Visibility, nil. No column for the small wrong thing I had seen at 8:40 and not written down. At 8:40, I had been on the bell deck waiting for the next 30-second mark, and through a thin place in the fog, out toward the southeast, I had seen the running lights of a vessel. Red over white, schooner, port quarter to me, maybe a mile out. I caught her in the brass binoculars for 2 seconds before the fog closed and put her away. 3-master, topsail schooner. Old-fashioned rig, and the kind they were still building in Bath in '60, but no longer in '70. I logged her bearing in the day book out of habit. SSE, 3/4 of a mile, no name visible. And then, I did not log her in the Form 75. Because between the day book and the Form 75, I went back up the bell deck stair to ring the half-past. And when I looked out at the same patch of southeast, she was still there. Same heading, same port quarter to me, not moving. You learn as a keeper what fog can do to a man's eyes. So I waited. I rang the half-past. I rang the next 32nd. I rang the next. At 9 sharp, I looked again and she was still there. Port quarter to me, not moving in a way no vessel under sail in a rising wind has any business not moving. So I did not put her in the Form 75. The service has an old rule for it. Do not log a vessel you cannot also see. If you log a ship that was not there, you tell the lamp that what it saw was true. I had been taught that as an apprentice at Matanicus Rock by a keeper named Sewell, who had served 41 years and lost one eye to a wick burn. He said it like this: "The lens is a witness, Asahel. A witness only tells what it sees. You start telling it what to see, you will not like the witness it becomes." I went up to the lamp room at 10. The lens was turning. 2.5. The flame inside was even. And on the inside curve of the Fresnel, in the third bullseye panel from the bottom, I saw the schooner. Not reflected. In, like a fly caught in amber. 3-masted topsail schooner, port quarter to me, lights red over white. The canvas on her foremast hove down the way you hove canvas down when you were running before a storm in 1860-something and not now. I want to tell you I was frightened. I was not. I was a keeper looking at a problem with the lens. I took the chamois cloth out of my coat pocket. I cleaned the third bullseye on the inside the way a careful keeper cleans his lens, top to bottom, one slow pass. And the schooner stayed. I cleaned the next bullseye. She was in that one too. I cleaned the third panel from the top. She was in that one as well, and now her foresail was full. As if the lens had given her 2 minutes more of the storm, I lowered the chamois. I took 2 steps back, and the schooner in the third bullseye from the bottom, the one I had cleaned first, turned. Not the canvas, the hull. She brought her bow around to me, inside the lens, in an 1.5 inches of cut glass. At 11 I rang the bell. I went down. I rang it again at the half. I went up. I wound the weights at midnight, 7 minutes early, because I did not trust myself to count to 220 without making a mistake that night. The schooner stayed in the lens. All 7 bullseyes she could occupy. Bore to me and everyone. At 1 in the morning, between bell pulls, I heard a voice from the bell deck rail. My own voice, saying, "Pull the bell, Asahel. There is a ship. You are alone in a tower in a nor'easter long enough. You will hear your own voice say things you did not say. Sewell told me that too. You do not answer it. You do not pull the bell for a voice that asked you to pull it. I did not pull. I did not pull at the next half either, even though it was past the 30-second mark. Even though somewhere out in the bay, if there had been a real schooner, she would have been on the south ledge by now, and 100 men would have drowned for my discipline. I have thought about that a great deal in the 43 years since. I have not changed my mind, but I have stopped sleeping the way I slept before. At 2 o'clock, the lens stopped turning. Not slowed, stopped. The clockwork was a Henry Lapote mechanism, hand-cut in Paris in 1857, double action, and it did not stop. Not until I stopped it, but it had stopped. And the bullseye facing the southeast, the bullseye where the schooner lived, was on the seaward side, pointed at her, as if the lens were no longer a rotating witness, but a held one, waiting to be told yes. I went up the last half-flight to the lamp room. The flame in the bonnet was even. The lens was warm to the hand. And in the southeast bullseye, full size, the schooner was no longer port quarter to me. She was bow on, running lights red over green, closing. And behind the lens, between the lens and the flame on the keeper's walk where no man should stand, something stood, about my height, an oilskin coat. One eye. The eye was a piece of Fresnel glass 4 inches across, cut in concentric rings. And the schooner was the small, bright thing turning inside it. I didn't move. Old Sewell had a rule for this. If a thing looks at you out of the lamp, you do not put yourself between the lamp and the sea. I went around the apparatus by the rail walk the long way until I had the seaward bullseye on my right and the thing on my left, and a man's width of brass between us. Its single lens eye turned with me. Inside it, the schooner kept closing. It did not speak. It did not move toward me. It held out, in a hand I do not want to describe, the Form 75. Open to the 11th of November. My handwriting in the upper rows. The vessel's sided column empty. It wanted me to write her in. One line. Bearing SSE, 3/4 of a mile, 3-master, topsail, schooner, lights red over white. One line, and the lens would let her through. I understood that the way you understand a rotted board, the second your boot finds it. The lamp was the door. The Form 75 was the invitation. On the apparatus shelf, there was a book I had found my first week and not opened. Previous keeper, Pemaquid Point, 1869-1881. I had recognized the handwriting on the cover and not been able to place it. I placed it now. It was the same hand as the half-burned logbook a wrecker had brought my father in 1851 off a hull called the Black Reef. Same down slant, same Roman J. 2 stations, 30 years apart, one hand. Some keepers had said yes, and the lamp had let them through, and then it had kept them. I did not write the schooner into the Form 75. I took the chamois out of my coat pocket. I laid it across the inside of the southeast bullseye. I cupped the flame in the bonnet with my hand, which a keeper does not do, which a keeper never does, and I blew it out. The dark, when it came, was the kind of dark a fog gives you. Wet, particulate. In the lamp room, no sound at all. The thing was not there, or it was there and had no use for me in the dark. I have not decided. I went down the iron stair in the dark, 3 flights by feel. I rang the bell every 30 seconds from the bell deck rail until first light at 6:20. I lit the lamp again at 4:50 the following afternoon. I wound the weights. I trimmed the wick. I did not look in the third bullseye from the bottom for the rest of my rotation. I logged the time the lamp was out. Lamp extinguished 2:08 a.m. to 4:50 p.m., repairs to clockwork, which was the only lie I ever told the service in 19 years, and which I would tell again. My assistant arrived 11 days later off the next schooner. He was a young man with a clean face who had never seen the inside of a fourth-order Fresnel. I taught him to wind the weights and to trim the wick and to ring the bell every 30 seconds in fog. I did not teach him to look in the lens. I served at Pemaquid Point through the autumn of 1886. I never saw the lens-eyed thing again. But once a year, on the 11th of November, in the third bullseye from the bottom, I would see a small, bright schooner port quarter to me, lights red over white. I would clean the inside of the panel one slow pass. I would not log her, and by morning she would be gone, back to the station that keeps the ships that no one ever wrote down. If you ever stand night watch in a tower and you see a vessel in your lens that is not in your sea, do not write her in your log. Some witnesses are doors, and some doors are only waiting to be told yes.